What's up, everyone? It's CTD from C2 Wrestling. Before we get into today's video, I got to give you guys a heads up. January 6th, the Netflix debut of Monday Night Raw. We are going live again right here on our YouTube channel. We went live for the last two PLEs. It was such a fun time, a lot of funny moments. You don't want to miss it. This show is going to be huge. They're treating it like a WrestleMania level Raw. We're going live. Come talk wrestling with us. Enjoy the show, the surprises, the big moments. We'll be live for it. Come hang out with us right here on C2 Wrestling. But now, let's get into the video.
Monday Night Raw, another episode in the books, but another episode of C2 has just begun. Tonight, reviewing not much of an episode of Monday Night Raw. Yeah. Gonna put it bluntly. What did you think about tonight's episode?
Yeah, I mean, it was a taped show. We
Mm-hmm.
knew going in some of the things. I had seen some things, not everything. But it's just that, like, little, not lull, but like it's the holidays, tape shows. And also, there's a really big show that we're 2 weeks away from that they're just basically fighting to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. We are on record saying these taped shows are not a big deal. A lot of people complain about them, and they're not a big deal. Maybe it wasn't the best show ever, sure, but it's the Christmas show. We're coming up to the holidays, like we got January 6th, Monday, Netflix. That's going to be big. That's being booked like a pay per view. So they're booking like a pay per view. 2 weeks out from that, next week will probably be a little bit more because it's 1 week out. It's like the how do you end the show before the big show, you know? So we'll see where they go next week. But this week was, I was dozing a little bit, it was like nothing too spectacular, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only real enhancement, the New Day segments were nice. Those
Mm-hmm.
were great. A lot of it is like where, you know, the Damian and Finn story, we see the finish line. The Seth Punk story, next week they'll be face to face, but the following week is January 6th. That's when the match is. Liv and Rhea, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it is towards that January 6th show or PLE, however the hell you want to call it. So it is like a bit of we all see the finish line. It's the holidays. Did I go into tonight thinking this was going to be a world beating episode of Raw? No.
No.
There is one thing that definitely piqued my interest that I, you know, hadn't seen on anything on social media, and I think is really the only thing we should get into. All the results pretty much everyone knows already with the
Yeah.
show being pre-taped. But Drew McIntyre, old Drew, it's it's quite interesting because he's feuding with guys that he has feuded with for years, and normally we'd be here like, God, he's still facing these guys. I don't feel that at all, especially with this new wrinkle.
Yeah, I don't either. It's interesting what they're doing with McIntyre here. I was kind of worried where were you going to go with him post the Hell in a Cell with Punk, and this is an intriguing route, kind of taking out the names that went against him in a way by teaming with his arch enemy Punk. I'm looking forward to seeing more. Drew is really the only thing to get into tonight. More importantly, some stuff he had mentioned tonight. Drew had mentioned coming back, one person checking in on him out of everybody. It's throwing some shade to that whole roster. There was a moment there I was like, is he like being real? Is this real shade? Like what's going on here? Who is that one person? Who's Drew talking about?
Well, they really make you want to think it's Solo, right? That seems to be the avenue with how
Mm-hmm.
SmackDown went, with how him coming out with Bloodline 2.0 to help Drew after the show, this or after his match, I should say. It feels like that's what they want you to believe. The reason I don't think it's Solo is because on Friday, when Drew was face to face with Solo, logically, we are in the world of using logic now. Logically, He would
Thank God.
say, when he was like, I want to go after you, he would say, but you were the only one who checked in on me.
Hmm.
And they haven't said that. So I feel like they want you to think it is Solo, but it's not Solo. So if it's not Solo, then who is it?
I have a name.
I have a name as well.
I think we might agree here. Or did he do it backwards? He did it backwards, didn't he?
N- Uh, I don't
Did he
remember.
count to three? Or did he count down from three? I forgot. I
I
mean,
don't
that was
know,
the
but
biggest segment of the
it
entire
was
year.
one of the best moments of the year.
Yeah, either way. We're talking about The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Who else? Who else but The Rock? Who else would be the one to check in on Drew McIntyre with like a legitimate maybe storyline purpose? You know, what are they going to do? Say Sheamus was checking in on Drew? Oh my god! Like, what would you do with that? You know, who could it possibly be that holds any value
All right.
outside of The Rock?
The few names that came to mind,
Mm-hmm.
The Rock was the first one where I was like, I feel like The Rock would make sense. As
Yeah.
crazy as that sounds, with, him gifting the sword, the contract renewal, whatever. They've planted some things with The Rock,
Yeah.
and also it's an easy avenue for The Rock to come back and be against the OG bloodline, as it seems he will be. If it has a bubble in my throat. If it's not him, my mind
One other
immediately
name.
my mind immediately goes to like who makes sense. I mean, Wade Barrett makes sense, but I don't think Wade's gonna come back to just team with Drew.
No.
Um, maybe it's someone down in NXT who could be getting a call up.
So,
Not banking on it, but maybe it's that.
you know, the only other name that comes to mind in theory that of making sense. Again, it's got to make sense. Sheamus doesn't make sense. They're him and Drew are friends. Sure, doesn't make sense. Barrett and Drew friends. Sure, but you know they feud a little bit on TV. But again, he's not going to come back to a team with Drew. The only other name that storyline wise can make sense. It is all dependent on maybe the route they're taking for Mania. But I think Kevin Owens makes a little bit of sense here. I think Kevin Owens and Drew are on different paths for the same reasons. They're kind of, they're going different ways, but they're going to meet at some point. Kevin Owens is definitely a fair option. And I don't want this. I've been seeing this kind of tossed around online a little bit. But there's a little rumor that, like, man, it could line up. I mean, it's not a rumor, it's just people making shit up. Who knows?
Speculation.
But speculation. Yeah, that's a better word. What if we were to get some sort of like 6-man tag at WrestleMania? The Usos and Sammy versus Drew, Rollins, Owens. Doesn't really do it for me, but I can see it happening. If you're gonna place the Punks and the Codys and these guys in all these certain matchups with Rock and Solo and whatnot, the Sammy and Owens and Drew are kind of like stragglers. Rollins is a straggler. The Usos. What do you do with those guys who are main guys? I don't want that to happen, but I can see Kevin Owens being the one guy that can go to Drew and being like, "You okay? What's up?" I don't know, checking in on him, saying whatever he was saying.
Yeah, I can't believe that didn't cross my mind, but I mean, they have essentially the same story right now on different
Yes,
brands.
yeah,
They are the only two who have consistently been against the bloodline no matter what. And they are the only two who were like, am I the only one going crazy here? Like, am I the only one who isn't seeing this? Like, why are you working with Roman Reigns? Granted, Drew McIntyre also has the CM Punk aspect mixed into it, but
mm-hmm.
you have Kevin Owens teasing shots at CM Punk at the same time. So it's
Yeah.
like they do really go hand in hand with this potential shakeup, whatever, transfer window. Maybe they end up on the same brand. You know, maybe Owens ends up on Raw because Aldis pleads with Adam Pearce to take Owens because Owens is taking out all of his top guys. Who knows? But it does really make sense now that you mention it. I'm not crazy though about the multi-person match of all the big names. Just, it does it make sense? Yes. That doesn't mean I want it.
Especially at a WrestleMania. Listen, if you were to throw that match on like a Bad Blood, a something, a Backlash, all right, like it's fine. It's not the biggest deal. I'm still not a big fan, but it's fine. That's not the Mania route I want for any of those names I just threw down in there. I think there's better avenues for all of them. Drew is a little bit of a question mark for me, though. I feel like I can theorize and I can come up with some sort of matchup at WrestleMania 41 for everybody right now, except Drew McIntyre. Where do you have him go? What is he going to be doing come Mania? Whatever we get into kind of in the next month or so with Drew is helping build at least towards his Mania feud. So you got to think we're kind of getting there. Whatever's to come leads into Mania. I hope it's not a 6-man tag, but I could see that avenue if they go the Owens route with this 1-man thing. If it's The Rock, that opens so many doors. I don't know what they're doing if it's The Rock. That will kind of blow my mind a little bit because like just don't see it coming type stuff. Drew's had no affiliation with the bloodline. Is The Rock the heel now too, and Solo going face? I don't know where they go at that point.
Well, I'll wrap it up here with a question for you on
Mm-hmm.
Drew being our focal point. Percentage wise, odds,
Uh-huh.
January 6th, what percentage do you say it is that Drew McIntyre actually ends up helping Solo, gives his little payback, helps Solo beat Roman, more so because he doesn't want Roman to have any power, and he would rather have Solo who kind of, puckers up to him a little bit with the Ulafala rather than Roman, because that has definitely been something that I've seen online.
Yeah, that has definitely got some likelihood to it. I don't want to like skyrocket and say it's 99% chance of happening. 0 to 100, 51% chance.
That's
I'd
the
say it's
exact number I was thinking of. That's the exact number I was thinking of.
I'd say it's slightly more
Yep.
likely than unlikely that it happens by a hair, just by one. But that's the beauty of C2 wrestling. We tend to agree a lot of the time, disagree on some things, but we really are one brain C2 wrestling here. That is an interesting question. I want the fans to tell us what they think. Go down below, comment on the video. What do you think?
Are you asking me or the fans?
Yeah, you.
I said 51%. I agreed with you.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right for a moment.
But I want to know what the fans think. I also want to
Yeah.
know who the fans think that one person is.
Yes, yes, yes,
That
yes.
is the hook, line, and sinker of
Yeah,
tonight's Raw. The one thing to take away from this taped show is that line that Drew is teasing. So get down below. Who do you think? Do you think it's The Rock? Do you think it's Solo? Do you think it's Kevin Owens? Do you think it's someone from left field that no one is even thinking about that could, as soon as we see his name, then Drew's WrestleMania plans are clear as day? Get down in the comments below and let us know.
absolutely. Until next time, I'm Snowden, CTD, C2 Wrestling.